at Wagner's in Westlake. One of the coolest events of the year. We talk about it every single year. And this year, I feel like it's 15 times the size of what it was a year ago. It used to be Tecmo Cleveland, then it became Tecmo Jam, and now it's the Cleveland Gaming Classic. And there's all kinds of cool stuff going on beginning at 10 a.m. on Saturday, November the 16th. They'll open the doors again at 10 o'clock on Sunday, November the 17th. And here to tell us more about that, we've got Tom Jenkins joining us here in studio. Tom, as always, a pleasure to have you on, my man. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Well, I'm not even sure where to begin because there's so much cool stuff happening this weekend. I know you're working with Larry and the guys at One Life to Play at Westlake, too. We had Larry on the show over the summertime, and he was the first one that kind of clued me in at what was to come. And I didn't say anything about it, wanted to keep it on the down low, but now the secret's out. Everybody knows about what's happening. You guys are going to have your usual Tecmo Super Bowl tournament, but this year there's a lot more going on.
Yeah, we got a ton more this year. I mean, it's been a really, really busy year, so it's all happening this weekend in Westlake, like you said. Like you said, 2 years ago, we were just Tecmo Super Bowl. Then we added NBA Jam in 2018, and now we evolved to Cleveland Gaming Classic. So we've got a ton of stuff. Larry from One Life to Play out in Westlake. The big thing that they're doing is Smash Brothers. Everyone's always asking me, you guys have Smash Brothers? Are you doing Smash? Which, if you're not familiar with, is more new gaming, right, on the Nintendo Switch. We've got Madden this year. We've got Fortnite. Everyone's always asking, you guys going to add Fortnite? We've got that. We've got Street Fighter. We've got guest appearances, which I'll probably mention here in a couple of minutes. But we've got so much going on this year, so it's really cool to see this event evolve.
You mentioned guest appearances, and we have to start with this. Tim Kitzrow is going to be there at 4 o'clock, right, on Saturday. And for those who don't know Tim Kitzrow, Steve Bailey did a great impression of this guy earlier. Steve, turn that microphone on, man.
Let's hear it.
You did the impression of Tim Kitzrow, the voice of NBA Jam. Let's hear some of that.
He's on fire!
There you go. Can't buy a bucket.
You got to hear a boom shakalaka.
Yeah, boom shakalaka, yeah.
Pretty good.
So I've got to know, how did this all start? Because I think everybody hears that voice. They may not necessarily know that name, but they get to see this guy in person on Saturday. How did you guys connect?
Yeah, so it's been one of those things that's kind of been on the, call it, bucket list for this thing. When we added NBA Jam last year, it's like, okay, when you think NBA Jam, everyone immediately thinks like, he's on fire, boom shakalaka, can't buy a bucket, and all the quips from NBA Jam. So this year, thinking that and knowing we were going to go big, one of the first things I did, and thank goodness for social media, is connect with Tim, right, and say, hey, Tim, we got the show. We'd love to have you out here. Here's a little bit about it, and just start the conversation from there. So lo and behold, Tim Kitzrow, worked with him. He's going to be here. He actually recorded some audio for us that we've been teasing out there, which is cool. So he'll be at the show on Saturday. He'll show up at 4 o'clock. He's flying into Cleveland on Saturday, so hopefully the snow either holds off or lets up before then. And then he'll also be there on Sunday as well. We're going to have an interview with him. Believe it or not, it's actually awesome timing, too. There's a guy down in Columbus, just published what's called NBA Jam, the book. So he's in Columbus, right? So this is like everything coming together.
The stars aligned.
Right, the stars aligned, right? So NBA Jam, the book, came out, I think, a week or two ago. So you can buy that book on Amazon. But a lot of the interviews are all with guys from Midway and all the talent behind NBA Jam and Mortal Kombat. Like, all those things are intertwined. So he's coming up from Columbus to do a panel interview with Tim Kitzrow because he knows all the history of NBA Jam and what happened and everything. So he'll be talking and doing a live interview with Tim at the show. It'll be cool.
Wow, okay. And you also have a gentleman named John Salter who's going to be there for an interview as well, talking about the longest arcade run in history. What's this all about?
Yeah, so John and I are great friends. He owns a place out in North Ridgeville, John Salter's Full Blast Arcade. But John, his claim to fame, and you can Google this, right, is that he has the longest arcade run in history, which how many hours do you think that is?
So he's got elaborate on the longest arcade run here. What are we talking about?
I'm talking about on one quarter. How long do you think he's played a single game on one quarter?
Jeez. I mean,
what game are we talking about?
Armor Attack. Armor Attack is the game, which a lot of people don't know. It's a vector game. But just think of a game.
10 hours?
No, keep going.
Whoa.
What?
18?
85.
Whoa.
I don't want to keep you here all night on that
On a quarter?
85?
85 hours straight.
Wait, so he stayed awake for, 3 days?
Yeah, more than 3 days.
Holy smokes.
Right. Yeah, or whatever that is, whatever that works out. I'm not that good at math. But yeah, 85 hours on a single quarter. So there have been, I forget what year he did this in, but there's articles out there about this, about how these guys marathon these types of games. And yeah, 85 hours. So he's going to talk about that journey on one quarter, which would be pretty cool.
Wow. I mean, that's worth the price of admission alone. I
think you'd have a headache. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see straight.
Well, like, did he put a bottle between his legs, or how did he do that?
There's some actually really cool documentaries about that. Like, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but there's some really cool movies you guys can check out. There's King of Kong, which is a good one, came out a number of years ago. Then there's this other one called The Nibbler, but it's about all these guys that do these marathons, right, and how they train their bodies, train mentally, because staring at a screen for like 85 hours straight, let alone like bathroom breaks and staying alive and actually competing, like it's a grind. I mean, that's why I think it's going to be a cool short story for him to share with people.
Now, you've got a lot of different things going on. And again, it's this weekend, this Saturday and this Sunday at Wagner's in Westlake. It's the Cleveland Gaming Classic. It begins at 10 o'clock. They'll open the doors at 10 o'clock on both days. Now, you also have a band, right? There's the 88-bit musical performance. What's this all about?
Yeah, so again, we're just like everything this year has been focused on like adding more content, right? So again, just going from like Tecmo Super Bowl to NBA Jam, it's like let's turn this into a weekend of like everything game. So this guy Rob Kovacs, he plays 8-bit, like you think of old games like Final Fantasy, Marble Madness, and Super Mario, whatever. He plays them on the keyboard. So we're going to have a full like grand piano there, and he's going to be playing all music from games that like you grew up on. So he'll be doing a musical performance there. He actually had a set where he did a practice of it this past week, and it's just awesome. Like you hear these games and just the music to them.
Marble Madness. Yeah. I loved that game.
Dude, and they got like great music too. Like a lot of these games, like you think of Mega Man. Like, when you think of some of these games, like the music is what defined them, right? So the music is really kind of cool, and so he'll be performing then, and that's why that whole Saturday afternoon, it's like performance, interview, panel, just more and more just talking to people that are industry and that have cool stuff to share. Again,
we're speaking with Tom Jenkins with the Cleveland Gaming Classic. It's so hard to say your name and not say Tecmo Cleveland or Tecmo Jam Cleveland. It took me a few minutes to kind of get past that, but you changed the name because there are so many other elements at play here that just weren't there in years past. And I mean, even to evolve into Sunday here, the very beginning of this thing is kind of what made this thing famous, right? The Tecmo Super Bowl tournament, but on Sunday, you guys are talking about an NBA Jam tournament, a Dr. Mario tournament, a Madden 20 tournament as well, and then, of course, the Fortnite tournament. I mean, this thing really took on a life of its own. I mean, over the course of just a couple of years, because I remember 2 years ago we had you in studio, and we were talking about just the Tecmo tournament. But even then, that was an eye-opener because you were telling us the stories about how you can't play your typical Tecmo game on these flat-screen TVs. Like, you had to go out. You had to especially make appointments to go out and get these big old tube TVs. Are you still doing that?
Yes. I just picked up 2 more tube TVs yesterday. At the tail end of the Browns game, so 2 more tubes in the back of my car. I actually turned one away because it was too big, so it can be known that I can actually turn away big, old-school tube TVs. But yeah, I've been stockpiling these TVs because honestly this year, so we're doing something actually cool too. We're bringing in basically like an old-school arcade. So John Salter, who's doing that interview, he owns his own arcade, so we're literally taking a Ryder truck, filling a Ryder truck up, 16, 20-foot Ryder truck with arcade cabinets and moving it over to Wagner's. And we're going to pack that thing full of old-school tube TVs as well, because if I'm moving in my car, it's going to take me 20 trips. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So when you get into this, I mean, again, it sounds like there's something for just about everybody from the arcade games. I mean, you've got the retro games in here. You've got the new school games, the Fortnite and Madden. So how does the admission to something like this work?
Yeah, so you can buy tickets online. You go to GameCleveland.com is where you can buy tickets. So you can buy general admission tickets. So if you want to come, just hang out, whether Saturday or Sunday, there's 1-day or 2-day passes. Or if you want to do tournaments, some of the tournaments are free. So Dr. Mario is free to play. And actually you can win with the Dr. Mario tournament too. Like you can win a free pass. There's this event called Replay FX in Pittsburgh. So whoever wins that, we're going to send to that show for free next year. So it's cool. But if you want to do any of the paid tournaments too, if you're on GameCleveland.com, you can pick what tournament you want to register for. You can pick multiple. There's a ton of different options out there.
Now, is there an entry fee to get into some of these? You mentioned that some of the tournaments are free. I mean, I would imagine to get into that Tecmo tournament, that might cost you a little something, but are there additional costs besides the ticket just to get in?
Yeah, no. So once you're in the door, you're in. So if you just want to buy a general admission ticket, you don't want to play in a tournament, that's why you have all this cool stuff this year. It's like we basically have like a whole area, really what's a ballroom of just video games. We've got also like a VR company coming in. They're bringing in like 2 VR setups. So it's just like if you don't want to play in a tournament, awesome. There's tons of stuff for you to do. We've got vendors there this year too, which is totally new. So we've got people that are coming from all over the U.S., toy companies, local vendors, people with retro game stores that are coming to set up. So if you're interested in just like going to a swap meet and buying stuff, we're going to have tons of that stuff too. But if you do sign up for a tournament, that gets you in the door, you know. So tournaments range anywhere from I think $14 upwards of I think $40. So
okay, so I mean, there's still a whole lot to do here. And I know when you had tweeted something out a couple of days ago, just to give you an idea as to just how this thing blew up and how popular it's gotten. I mean, the tournament itself a couple of years ago got popular with the Tecmo Super Bowl tournament. Then, of course, you had an NBA Jam last year. But you have people that are really excited about the Street Fighter tournament.
Yeah.
And that really stood out because of all the cool things you guys have going on. Not that Street Fighter isn't something that shouldn't pop out. It was a great game. We all kind of grew up on it. But that guy was all excited about Street Fighter.
People love this stuff. And that's the thing, like I get so many people messaging me like, hey, can I put in an RBI baseball tournament? Like, sure. Like, if you want, like, let's do it. We've got this huge convention area. We can do RBI baseball. We can do Street Fighter. We can do Marble Madness. You know, that's why we came up with the Dr. Mario tournament. We have a bunch of guys that reach out and say, hey, they go to this big show where Dr. Mario is a thing every year. And yeah, it's always, people always say like, oh, I didn't know these were actual things. Yeah, they are. And a lot of people take this stuff uber seriously, right? So we've just been adding more and more content. If people want to do it, we've got the space. Let's run it. Let's have some fun. So
now I think you'll find out at the end of the weekend that 2 days you'll be busy, but 2 days might not even be enough, man. Like when I look at all that's happening this weekend, you know, from Street Fighter to Tecmo to NBA Jam to Fortnite to Madden, I look back again a couple of years, and it's crazy how this thing blew up. Can you pinpoint a specific time where you figure like, holy smokes, I mean, that balloon is really starting to inflate?
Yeah, I think last year was that point. You know, I mean, we've been doing this on this scale. This is the third year, really, because this whole thing started out of my basement. But I think last year, when people started traveling from all over the U.S., I mean, give you an example, like the Smash Brothers tournament, there are companies like esports teams that are like flying people out to do this.
Wow.
Right? So
What?
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, so for Smash specifically, you know, people are coming from all over the U.S. to do this stuff. Even for Tecmo Super Bowl still has a really big cult following, right? NBA Jam is getting there. There's actually supposedly, it's not confirmed yet, but it's supposed to be a team there doing a documentary, filming it live on NBA Jam about how this is one of the biggest evolving NBA Jam tournaments in the U.S., if not like the biggest, right? So this stuff is either already there, but I think we're starting to be known. We've always been known as being like a tournament scene, but I'm also trying to add in like more content that's just, hey, if you're not just there to compete in a tournament, there's tons of stuff elsewhere to do. Yeah.
Well, the wild thing too is, and you just alluded to it, this all kind of started in your basement a few years ago. And, you know, you mentioned to me, I think it was last year, the year before, like, look, we did this just because a bunch of our buddies, we kind of felt like playing Tecmo was a fun thing to do. We figured, why not just make a tournament out of it? But then it just took on a life of its own. And here you are 3 years later, not just having the Tecmo Super Bowl tournament, but you've incorporated so many other games and so many other facets to this as well.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I wake up one day this year and I'm like, okay, I actually need to do a budget for this year. That's when it kind of hit me that this thing is real. Right?
Like, is it almost getting too big for you? Is it like getting to a point where you're a little like overwhelmed?
It's getting to the point where I need help. Actually, even put on the website, and if you want to, shout out, if you want to volunteer, we take volunteers. Because a lot of this is done, honestly, just like blood, sweat, and tears of people helping out or texting me or calling me saying, hey, can I help you? The answer to that is yes. So that's why we've added things like to our website, hey, if you want to volunteer, we'll give you a free pass. If you want to volunteer, we'll throw in a T-shirt or whatever it is to help. Because that's how a lot of this has happened, right? So, but it's been wild. It's been a lot of learning along the way, too, and just connecting with other big conventions that are out there as well.
Before we let you go, we've got to throw that information out there one more time, not only for tickets, but you mentioned volunteers as well. What kinds of volunteers are you looking for? Just as we get closer to the weekend, you're looking for some bodies that can help. And volunteer can be taken a number of different ways, but are there some specific things you need help with?
Yeah, we need people to help. Like, we've got the free play console area just to kind of show people around, right? So a lot of people may not have grown up with an Atari 2600 or don't even know how it works, right? Or how a Nintendo works, or all those things. So we've got a console area, we've got the retro arcade, or just even helping people with at the door and showing them where to go. We also have a photographer that's going to be there this year, like offering to do photo shoots of people. We have cosplay people. So just helping out with all the stuff there is to do really is a big ask. It's a big ask this year.
No question about it. Well, before we let you go again, the website one more time where our listeners can go and they can buy tickets and they can get the entire schedule of events. Where can they go to get that?
Yeah, so again, go to gamecleveland.com. So that's gamecleveland.com. So you can go there. It's in Westlake at Wagner's of Westlake this weekend, Saturday, November 16th and 17th.
And there's something for just about everybody that even considers themselves even a quasi-gamer. I mean, we're talking about video games that span a generation and a half. You could probably even stretch that out to 2 different generations. We're talking about, what, 40 years back?
Oh,
man,
yeah.
This is
Oh,
crazy.
you're going from Marble Madness to Fortnite.
That's
Yeah,
what I said.
I mean-
We've got Atari 2600s. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get my hands on a ColecoVision and some of this
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all there, right? And that's the thing. Like, once people are in the door, we've talked about this before. I just want people to have fun. Just go around, play some games, have fun. It should feel like you're back in like your mom and dad's basement or at a local pizza shop when you were a kid. Like, that's what I want, because we don't get a lot of that today. Like, interacting. I play a lot of the new stuff too on headsets and mics, but it's just cool to like do it in person. Pick up the controller and be next to the guy. I mean, so we really try to do a lot where we bring people together.
Good stuff. Well, Tom, every year you come in studio and I think to myself, man, 20 minutes just isn't enough. We could have spent the entire show on this today. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of fun, man. Always a pleasure to have you here in studio, and hopefully Mother Nature plays nice, and this weekend she'll keep the S word out of the equation, and you get a lot of people to show up to Wagner's and Westlake because you guys have some really cool stuff going on. Thanks, as always, for coming in.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.